So why do I have two Supras? So it all started with the purchase of this car over here. So I got this car for a real steal. It was selling on Trade Me, which is our local auction site. And I think just because of the time of the year and because of the seller's location in the country, and just there wasn't a very good listing for this car, I got it for a really good price. So there was quite a few things wrong with the car when I got it. Obviously the biggest one was the visual stuff. The car was extremely rough. So the interior was rough, and while the car ran and drove, the engine wasn't running that well. It was the original 1G GE engine that came in this model of Supra, and it had an automatic transmission behind it. So I spent a bit of money and quite a lot of time trying to get that car to run and drive how it was, to try and get it back on the road and get it re-registered. However, after a while of dealing with that engine and the transmission, I just kind of the car didn't really excite me that much. So what I decided to do was to just drop in a 1JZ turbo engine and the 5-speed manual gearbox that normally comes behind those, and just build it as a car to have fun with. And so after a while of doing all that work, getting everything running right, putting in an aftermarket ECU, I kind of got a bit dismayed with the appearance of the car. So I kind of kept a lookout trying to find a car that was really clean and tidy, that I could actually take all the stuff that I built on this car and swap it into a clean shell, and just have a car that not only performed well but also looked good. So I bought this second one here, and originally I had high hopes for the car, hoping that it was a really good clean shell and I could do what I talked about, just swapping all the good parts from this car onto this one and build one really cool, clean, tidy car. However, there were a few problems that I found with this car when I started to dig into it. So luckily I got it for a really good price, and it came with a few performance parts like coilovers and the aftermarket radio and a few other rear and good bits that were on the car. And I sold a bunch of parts that I was never going to use, and I got most of my money back on it. And then I started to dig into the car and find that there were a few things that I wasn't quite that happy with. So the first thing I kind of noticed when I was taking the original coilovers off is that the underside of the car is quite beat up. A lot of the sills are damaged and the floors are pushed in from where people haven't been jacking on it properly. The seam that runs along the frames on each corner, all that was bashed in from people jacking it. And just the whole underside of the car just kind of looked a bit hacked up. And so with this car, while it is rough looking, it's kind of very unmolested. Well, unmolested until I got my hands on it. As you can see, it's got the wide body and front guards, and it's got an intercooler and all that stuff that I've kind of hacked it up myself a little bit. But stuff like the seams that run along the frame on the side of the car, all those are pretty mint on this one. All the floor is pretty mint. It seems like it's had quite an easy life before the previous owner to me got his hands on it, and before I got my hands on it. And with this car, it looks like it's had a lot of people who have kind of hacked on it. So looking at the history of this car, it did come with the Toyota V8 in it. Somebody had swapped the V8 into this car, and along the way it looked like they've made a lot of modifications to the wiring harness to get everything to work. So all the wiring in this car is quite hacked up. It's got a lot of stuff spliced into it, and I'm kind of not sure exactly what some of the stuff they've done, like where all the wires go and what the reason for them to do it. So I kind of have to strip out a lot of what they've done and run my own wiring harness and all that to actually get the 1JZ engine to work in this car. And I kind of don't really want to do that work again in this car after I've already spent a lot of time and effort and done all the research to get this wiring perfect in this car. The next thing is there's a lot of interior stuff that's either broken or missing and kind of crappy in this one. And while I can fix that by swapping all the good stuff on this car into this one, it just seems like a lot of effort. Like the dashboard in this one's better than that one. Pretty much the one big thing this car has going for it is that it does have quite a nice paint job on it. The other thing that kind of puts me off this car is that somebody's done quite a hack job of putting the front windshield in. So the silicone seal that you use to glue the windshield in, it's kind of actually been applied a little bit too liberally. So when they put the windshield in, it's kind of squished out from the windshield gap and it's over the interior A-pillars and on the hood lining and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff, I don't know, it just doesn't really appeal to me. Like, it kind of really lets the car down. And the rear window hasn't actually been sealed in yet. There's a lot of exterior trim missing that I could probably take off this car, but because it's a 35-year-old car, I really risk damaging that trim trying to get it off. The other thing is in the boot, it looks like they've relocated the battery to the boot, so the back of the boot has all kind of got holes and drills and it's a little hacked up and damaged as well. The other thing is, I actually kind of like, well, growing to like the appearance of this car. So some of you might be familiar with the whole roadie muscle car movement there is in the States, where you have classic performance muscle cars where people just focus all their money on the actual performance of the car, and the exterior is kind of beat up, a little bit rusted, weathered, got a lot of patina. So kind of a bit of a fan of that look, and this is almost the same kind of thing but with a Japanese performance car, where you got most of the money, or pretty much everything I've spent on this car has been performance orientated and not really as focused on the appearance of the car. So while the car does kind of have that beat up look, all the performance and all the suspension and everything is like the whole car is mechanically sound. So kind of starting to appreciate that look where the car looks beat up but still performs. So I'll just go over everything that I've kind of done to this car since I purchased it. So obviously throughout the 1GGE engine and the automatic behind it, put in the 1JZ and the manual gearbox, had to get a drive shaft made up. So one of the kind of interesting things about this car is it has the smaller differential. So the narrow body 1GG engine has a smaller diff than all the 7M Supras. So I think it's like a 4.7 ratio diff. So it's got really high kind of gearing or really low gearing depending on how you look at it. So it does accelerate really fast, but I don't think it's going to be that great for highway cruising. I do have this subframe I can swap out of this one and put in there, but I might have to change the drive shaft to make that work. So I do have BC Racing coilovers as well. I decided to go with the digressive ones, which should hopefully make it a bit more tame for everyday driving. Obviously I have the wide body. I picked that up from Shine Auto and I had to get it imported into New Zealand. Then I've got the Adaptronic ECU. I do have the original 1JZ ECU around as well, but decided that I wanted to get this engine here running really well on a standalone before I do any performance upgrades on the engine. So I do have a turbo manifold with a GT30 76 Chinese clone turbo with all the wastegate, got a fuel rail and all the supporting fuel system components. and included fuel pump and everything to support that kind of power. It has intercooler and all the intercooler piping, quite a large intercooler. Had to do a lot of wiring and modifications to the dash to actually make the rev counter work. Interior, I haven't really messed with any of the interior. So while this car does have a really good paint job, there's a lot of things that really irk me about this car going on. So I'm really trying to toss up, do I stay with this chassis and transfer all the good bits from this one onto this car, or take the engine and drivetrain out of this one and put it on this car? And kind of really stuck in that place about which base chassis should I really invest all this time into. At the moment I'm really leaning towards staying with this one because I know it's good, I know everything I've done, and I know it works. And what I'm kind of thinking of doing is taking all the nice parts off it, like all the front end here and the doors, and just making this car look as nice as possible, getting the wide body painted, and just trying to make a good car from the two of them.